In view of the statement by the Finance Minister Wale Edun issued on Friday, it has become imperative to strengthen the legal framework to back Nigeria's full implementation of full deregulation, under which refineries sell petrol directly to marketers. With its withdrawal from the exclusive petrol supplier arrangement in a move towards deregulation and operation, according to the dictates of a free market. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC Limited, has increased its pump prices nationwide and ceased to be the exclusive off-taker of petrol from the 650,000 barrels per day Dangote Refinery, and as a middleman between the Aliko Dangote-owned refinery and petroleum marketing companies. It should be recalled that the NNPC Limited has been the sole importer and supplier of petrol into the country, a responsibility handed to it by Nigeria's extant laws as the nation's last resort supplier. Joining us now on this show to discuss how to strengthen the legal framework to back Nigeria's implementation of food deregulation, under which refineries sell petrol directly to marketers, and the gains of food deregulation of the downstream sector and how it will incentivize investments in the sector and create jobs is Professor Yemi Oke, a senior advocate of Nigeria and a professor of energy and electricity law at the University of Lagos. Professor Oke, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, first, let me congratulate you
Thank you
on your sonship.
I appreciate that.
Well fought for, and well received,
Thank you very
well
much.
considered, and well deserved.
Thank you, I appreciate
You know that my class, my MILD class,
Yes.
and the faculty, we've been celebrating you. All of us were
Thank you very much.
jubilant.
So
congratulations.
Thank you. I got those messages.
As we see on this,
Implications.
Prof,
Serious one.
Serious one.
Prof has already provided the implications at the club.
We have not seen it too.
There are applications, sir.
Yeah, this is table implication. Table.
Anyway,
Noted. Yes, noted.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, very quickly, this new regime, Mr. Wale Edun says, what has been done, food deregulation, is to drive competition and to provide a more enabling environment within the downstream sector. The AGO, kerosene, aviation fuel, and all of that having been already deregulated. What do you think? And what are the implications for ordinary Nigerians? Because our own concern is that inflation will go up, we will pay more. Even the prices of everything, have gone up. Why should we be punished for something that flows in the backyard of some other people's backyard in this country? After all, the crude oil belongs to us. Why have we been punished to pay more?
Very, very important question. And of course, we're all in it together as a nation. But we need to understand clearly, very clearly, when we engage in this kind of crucial national discourse, where were we? We were at a T-junction headed towards destruction, total destruction. And I'll give you a simple analysis. We had the old NNPC, which even when we teach students in the class, we say NNCC was a conflicted entity, not NNPCL. We had the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. On the one hand, was the industry regulator. The same NNPC was a player in the petroleum sector. That was a problem. Then we were operating a closed petroleum economy, meaning monopoly, dominated by the NNPC. NNPC was in charge of crude, NNPC was in charge of refining, NNPC was in charge of virtually everything. No room for private sector players to come on board. Then what were the resource sheets of NNPC? What were the net gains and profit of Nigeria and Nigerians as an entity? It took 15 years plus to change the narratives from the old Petroleum Act to Petroleum Industry Act because, of course, the players were trying to kind of they were not going to allow it to happen. So we had Petroleum Industry Act, which changed the narratives. Now, we have an open market petroleum industry, which allows private sector to come under and play. But we do well as a country, the answer is no. In terms of capacity to refine, we were nowhere. We were importing. The mathematics of what got imported and what came in and was not aligning. So now, we had a single opportunity with the Dangotes and others coming about to change the narratives. Let me give you two good examples. We've heard of the Saudi Aramco. We've heard of Petrobras, top end and lower end. Saudi Aramco was 1933. Last 2002, December, not the current financial year, Saudi Aramco contributed 181 billion US dollars gain, profit, and it contributed well over 60% of the GDP. Lower end, petroleum company of Brazil, Petrobras, in their own currency made 147 billion, which lost about 9 billion US dollars.
Reals, 147 billion reals.
Into the economy. Though Petrobras was incorporated after an NPC, is a net player, buys petrol, refines. We have Petrobras in Nigeria. They're playing. That was what the NNPC ought to be doing, to add something major to the table for Nigeria, to give Nigeria a big cake that all of us can share. NNPC wasn't doing that. In fact, NNPC was even taken from the national cake, and we couldn't have survived as a nation. And we needed to take those difficulties so that we can get at where we ought to get to. Now, with the current structure, Nigeria is still from bottom, 14th cheapest nation in terms of petroleum product. The global average of petroleum per liter, global average, of course, these are things we do from time to time, was $1.87. Now, in Nigeria, I think about...
It's 62 cents. We
Yes.
Even with 1,200, it's 62 cents.
So now, Russia produces oil. Canada does. US does. In the US, it oscillates around $2.5 to 3.
For the gallon, anyway.
Yes, for the gallon. Of course, that translates about 1.656. In Canada, 1.6, 1.5 Canadian dollars. So, we're not saying we should have an expensive product. Of course, there are other oil-producing countries that sell petroleum stuff for people almost at a giveaway price. But we've just started to do the right thing as a country. It's painful. Of course, I bought the fuel too. It wasn't that, it wasn't a kind of a sweet experience, but it was needful. Somebody said, but Yemi, your narrative was something similar to pain at childbirth. But modern medical practices makes childbirth now painless. Right. I said, yes, I agree. But then those palliatives will be applied. That's where we are. I think we're just now, we just started doing the right thing as a country.
So for a number of people who are listening, and I hear you, and what you're saying is that should it be that Nigerians should brace up if we're going to have a full deregulation of the downstream sector for higher prices? Is that what you're saying now? And then what impact would local refineries make? And the fact that now marketers, there's now it's now open for marketers to negotiate directly with the local refineries to buy products. Because at the end of the day, what Nigerians want to hear is the effect on price.
Thank you.
That's what they want to hear.
Okay, let me not address that question correctly. Impact on Nigerians. When you have a company, a corporation, an NPCL, that is making money from Chad, making money from Niger, making money from the US, making money from Canada, bidding and winning petroleum licenses, being able to bring more money to the table as a serious going entity in the petroleum sector, upstream and downstream. That adds to the national cake. That's one. Two, when an average investor knows that, of course, what drives the investment is bankability. If I put my money down, am I going to be able to reap the benefit of my investment with yield? Can I make profit coming into your economy? If the answer is no, nobody's going to come to your country. If the answer is yes, particularly in the petroleum and energy sector, electricity, petroleum, and the rest, gas, they're going to come. What will make them come? The first question is the existing players, like Dangote. We must commend Dangote. It's a huge investment that we thought was not possible at the time the investment was made. But we're getting there. With Dangote coming on board, we've started seeing the body languages of the Boas and others. Things are going to happen. And I have my own theory. My theory is simple. People said, some journalists said I should have been selling this idea, but I was never tired of selling my own ideas, but I'm not in a position to implement. One, we have 4 refineries. Particular refineries, we spent a lot of money, so we should make it work whatever it takes. The 2, Warri, I would give Warri out on long concession, 20, 30 years. Kaduna, I will sell Kaduna to northern entities, strictly northern entities. I will call them, please manage this thing. Take care of the market in the north and other side markets in Niger and elsewhere. They will have other players coming on board. It's a question of demand and supply, right? Nigerians are going to have it. And then Nigerians will have more jobs, high-paying jobs, not that they can afford to pay their bills, electricity bills, gas bills, and the rest. So if the country is not competitive, then we're not going to get there.
Okay, so a couple of things.
Yes.
The reason why NNPC is the way it is, apart from the corruption shenanigans, is governance. What should we do as regards governance? We can see NLNG doing well. So it's not that government can't run an institution that works, but it's governance of NNPC. Secondly, I'd like to ask you a question. The confusion still goes on in the system. Because if you say the average price is supposed to be $1, that means we've not had full deregulation yet. But every nation in the world also pays from subsidy to be able to cushion the effect. What's your take on this?
Okay, thank you for
2 minutes.
So the first one on subsidy, of course, that is subsidy, indirect subsidy. When you say naira you buy your crude in dollars, that's a subsidy. There are forms of subsidy at the level of equipment, at the level. So many.
So subsidy is still being
that is indirect subsidy.
Indirect subsidy.
Otherwise, Nigerians will be buying at 1.6, 1.7 to the dollar. You know what that means. So we can, but I think we're doing well now. So in terms of governance, it's not only the petroleum sector. I think the first structure that we had was to extricate sector player from the governance structure. That was my introductory remark when I said NNPC was a conflicted entity. The old NNPC was a player, was also a regulator. Now we have 2 bodies in charge of regulation, and they should regulate effectively. The essence of governance, sector governance, is independence of the regulator. I want to see those entities being professional, of course, I want to assume they are manned by professional people, competent hands, and they should just regulate effectively. If that is done, of course, the multiplier effect will be positive on the country.
Just before we go, in less than a second, if it is possible, you were supportive of the Tinubu campaign. Do you think that President Tinubu is on top of the energy crisis? You've written extensively on electricity and energy security in Nigeria.
Okay, let me tell you why I was in support of that. Of course, I saw somebody who was not a greenhorn, somebody who retired from the petroleum sector, the mobile, somebody whose first idea was to have decentralized electricity in Nigeria. And I felt this man had my passion. If we assist to support him to achieve those objectives as an energy enthusiast, I think we'll be adding value to the country. But I think it's on track. Even the fact that we're having this partial deregulation at this stage and it's driving us as painful as it might seem, of course, it shows it's still on the right track. But then I will agree with you that we need to rejig a few things in terms of governance structure, as rightly mentioned, and operational sector. But gradually, we'll get there.
Thank you very much, Professor Yemi Oke, SAN, for joining us on The Morning Show.